tonight. After a homeless camp was dismantled in Regina, many former residents haven't fared well. One family's tragic story.
They're not just bodies, they're people. That was her mom.
And parents are speaking out as the baby formula shortage continues a year later and might be getting worse. Plus, a new aquatic center and central library are top priorities for Regina residents if the cost doesn't only fall on taxpayers.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It's Thursday, December 8th. CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening, and thanks for joining us. The mother of a homeless woman is speaking out about her daughter's death on the streets of Regina. 22-year-old Angela Andrews lived in a camp that was set up last year for homeless people. Camp organizers say since it was disbanded, 1 in 4 people who live there have died. Laura Sharpaletti reports.
Wanda Nataweas worries about her granddaughter Raylyn. The preschooler's mother recently died, and she sometimes wakes up crying.
I have to explain to her why her mom's not around now, especially when she's older and she doesn't understand. It's gonna be hard.
Raylyn's mother, Angela Andrews, was living on the streets of Regina before she died on October 4th. She was taking fentanyl and didn't have a phone. The 22-year-old became sick after she was bit on the temple by an unknown bug.
She went to the hospital and she left before she got the results, and with them not knowing how to get a hold of her, it got into her blood and caused a blood infection, and she had 2 strokes and she passed away.
Nataweas says doctors suggested Andrews may have had an undiagnosed autoimmune disorder. Last year, Andrews was a resident of the homeless encampment known as Camp Hope in Pepsi Park. It was dismantled, and while some received temporary shelter, about 80 did not. Camp organizers say 20 of those people have died, many from drug overdoses.
What the community needs to understand is that there's a real family behind that. These aren't just numbers on paper. These are real people with real lives.
Alicia Johnson says the province needs to provide funding for more counselors and caseworkers in homeless shelters and out on the streets.
You can't deal with the underlying causes without putting the humans in place to do that. This is human work, addictions work, all of that, mental health, all those supports. Those aren't capital projects, those are people projects.
They're not just bodies, they're people. That was her mom, she doesn't have a mom now.
In a statement, the government said it's investing money in more treatment beds, housing initiatives, and emergency shelters. Nataweas says more needs to be done so no one else loses a loved one due to lack of services. Laura Sharpaletti, CBC News, Regina.
The Regina Police Service received more than $6 million from the province today. Most of that came from the Saskatchewan government's municipal grants program. The remainder came from SGI. RPS Deputy Chief Laura Lee Davies says this money will be spent on 48 police positions. That includes a new position on the force's Internet Child Exploitation Unit.
We know through investigators in that unit that there is more work than there is investigators currently, so that additional resource will be huge for them in being able to address and hold sexual offenders accountable. So I know that our officers that work in that unit are very grateful for the additional support from the province.
Statistics Canada data shows Regina police officers reported 25 incidents of people possessing or accessing child pornography last year. That's double the number of incidents from 2020 and the most since 2016. Regina police reported that 7 people made or distributed child porn last year. The government says more police funding announcements will be made in the future. Follow the rules. This is the message from the provincial auditor to the ministry that runs Saskatchewan jails. The auditor's latest report looks at how corrections uses solitary confinement. The auditor says the findings are cause for concern. That's being echoed by Corrections Minister Christine Tell.
Those processes are in place. They need to be followed. And so my thoughts are, you have rules for a reason, follow the rules.
The auditor says the decision to send an inmate to solitary confinement should be made by correctional center managers, not officers. And the auditor says jails need to develop ongoing training for staff. Some Saskatchewan parents are still struggling to find formula for their babies. A shortage of specialty products began back in the spring, but now regular formula is hard to find too. One new mother wants answers and help. Daniela Ponticelli reports.
Sherry Rapley thought a temporary shortage of infant formula would be over by the time her daughter was born. That was 5 months ago.
The reality has been that it's actually seeming to get worse and worse, at least from a consumer standpoint.
Rapley was only able to secure her brand of regular formula from a friend in the United States. She has not been able to find it in Regina since September. She says other brands are usually more expensive, and suddenly switching brands can be hard on babies. She adds that breastfeeding is not a solution for everyone.
Some people like myself are nursing, pumping, and bottle feeding, and now we're also having to go out and scour store shelves for formula and call around and things like that. And so it's been a bit of a nightmare for a lot of parents.
The infant formula shortage has persisted in various forms for nearly a year. Manufacturing problems and product recalls have made it worse. The Saskatchewan government says the specialty formula shortage is Canada-wide. It says while regular formula is available, some brands may be out of stock.
We're in contact with the manufacturers and doing what we can, again, within what abilities we have as government to try to encourage and address the shortages to the best of our abilities.
Last week, Hindley said the government is monitoring supply and will try to make sure more arrives in Saskatchewan. He didn't say how. Rapley and others now want the province to investigate what's causing the shortage of regular formula brands. They say manufacturers might not be the only concern.
There might be problems in distribution or even changes in the way people are consuming products.
That includes panic buying. Rapley and others are now working on a paper petition, which will also urge the province to consider importing more regular brands. Daniela Ponticelli, CBC News, Regina.
Regina's Catalyst Committee has released the results from a recent online survey. It gauged community interest in 5 potential recreation and cultural facility projects. The proposed projects are a multi-purpose event center, an indoor aquatic facility, an outdoor baseball center, a synthetic outdoor soccer field, and the modernization of the Central Library. About 4,500 people responded to the survey. The Aquatic Center and the library emerged as the top priorities, and most people were not in support of the projects being publicly funded alone. The majority surveyed prefer the projects be paid for by a combo of money from the feds, the province, and the city, along with private investment and community fundraising.
The public does want us to be very careful with public money, and we will be in the city. But that doesn't mean we ignore these kinds of projects. 40 years ago, if people had built none of these projects, the city would be in terrible shape. We have a responsibility when we're spending public dollars, not just to think about today, but to think about what this means in 10 years and 20 years for the city.
The Catalyst Committee will have a report ready for City Council by mid-January. It says the next steps will be to find locations for the proposed projects. The Rough Riders have a daunting to-do list this off-season. They need a quarterback and an offensive coordinator, and close to the entire roster of players become free agents in February. The Rough Riders have signed running back Jamal Morrow to a 1-year contract extension. Morrow rushed for close to 700 yards last season, despite missing 8 games with a broken wrist. Re-signing was no question for Morrow.
Yeah, I think regardless of who's that quarterback, who's that offensive coordinator, I think Saskatchewan's just a place that you want to be in general. With the a general fan base and what we have, what we have, to offer facility-wise, I think there's no other place you would want to play in the CFL. So, I mean, once all that comes to fruition, I think, whoever's at the helm and whoever's at offensive coordinator, I think, it's still a destination place you want to be in the CFL.
Running backs coach Kelly Jeffrey and Pete Costanza of the Argos are believed to be the remaining candidates for the Riders' offensive coordinator post.
Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer had a very shiny nose like a light bulb.
Children's choirs have been entertaining people at TCU Place for nearly 50 years. The Noon Festival of Carols is back after a 2-year hiatus. School choirs from across Saskatoon performed this week. They're back from December 12th to 15th if you want to add a little Christmas cheer to your lunch hour. The event is free. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back. The highly anticipated documentary Harry and Meghan debuts today on Netflix. The 6-part series promises the full story about the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, their relationship and estrangement from the royal family, in their own words. Margaret Evans brings us the reaction from London.
Londoners enduring a cold snap just as the Cold War between Harry and Meghan and the royal family they left behind heats up. An opportunity, say marketing experts, for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex to shape their own narrative.
They have been through quite a difficult time with the British media because there have been quite a lot of negative stories.
But if people were expecting a gloves-off, drag-down, name-names fight, they won't find it here, at least not yet. It's a much more subtle affair. Here's Meghan on a first impression of William and Kate, now the Prince and Princess of Wales.
I guess I'd started to understand very quickly that the formality on the outside carried through on the inside.
There are no bombshells like the allegation of racism against an unnamed member of the royal family made in their Oprah Winfrey interview. But Harry describes what he calls unconscious bias within the royal family, pointing to a lack of sympathy for Meghan.
And some of the members of the family was like, right, but my wife had to go through that, so why should your girlfriend be treated any differently? And I said, the difference here is the race element.
If direct aim is being taken, the target is just as much the British tabloid media as the monarchy.
And the level of hate that has been stirred up in the last 3 years, especially against my wife and my son, I'm genuinely concerned for the safety of my family.
Critics dismiss the Netflix series as just another chapter in a long continuum of morbid fascination with the royals. Not surprisingly, the tabloid press, so often accused of fueling it, doesn't readily accept that racism forced the Sussexes to leave the UK.
There was a great outpouring of joy for this couple. I think the real problem is she expected something quite different. She expected it to be much more Hollywood, much more glamorous.
But others say the couple have opened up a long overdue discussion.
There was a blatant racial harassment of a biracial woman that has entered into the highest level institution in the United Kingdom.
King Charles was out and about, business as usual. There's been no official comment. Margaret Evans, CBC News, London.
This weather update is brought to you by Capital Ford Lincoln. 22 model clear out is on now.
Weather specialist Ethan Williams joins us now. Ethan, I am sure I am not the only one who is breathing a sigh of relief at this warm-up.
Yeah, no kidding. Nice to not have to show the watch warning map tonight with all that purple on it, all those extreme cold warnings. And we have certainly come a long way in just the past couple of days. This is a look at how much we have warmed up compared to 4 o'clock on Tuesday with 4 o'clock today. And look at this, a huge warm up, 25 degrees in Swift Current, Moose Jaw, Assiniboia, not that far behind. A lot of us in South and Central, about 15 to 20 degrees is what we've seen in terms of our warm up. The only area that really hasn't seen as much is East Central Saskatchewan, around Hudson Bay, Nipawin, Tisdale. only about 8 or 9 degrees, but even at that, that's certainly an improvement over these past couple of days. And that part of the province is still seeing some relatively chilly temperatures right now when compared with everyone else. Minus 21 in Hudson Bay. That is nearly 20 degrees colder than what it is right now in Maple Creek. And you can see that there's somewhat of a temperature gradient here. A lot of us kind of sitting somewhere in the middle. Regina minus 13 is same with Saskatoon right now. And our wind chill map, you can also see it on there too. Again, close to minus 30 in the Hudson Bay area, but not even a wind chill of minus 10 in southwestern Saskatchewan. And really just kind of sporadic temperatures all over the place, or wind chills. Regina at minus 23. But not far away in Moose Jaw, sitting at minus 11 for a wind chill. But where it is really going to warm up is the north of the province, where you have been waiting for this for a while. And as we go through tomorrow afternoon, we're finally escaping those minus 30s for wind chills, and we'll get into the minus teens likely tomorrow afternoon. This is helping it, this ridge building in our upper atmosphere as that polar air moves to the north. And as we go throughout the next couple of days, we are seeing a secondary ridge that is going to be building in, and that's really going to be warming us up a little bit more and kind of keeping us where we should be this time of year. Nothing too drastically warm or drastically cold over these next few days. High pressure moving out, low pressure providing some snow to northern portions of the province, especially along the northern border. And as we go in through the next couple of days here, we are looking for some maybe patchy snow in the Churchill region tomorrow evening. And then most of us are going to be clearing out for Saturday. In terms of how much more snow we're expecting in the far north, maybe about 2 to 4 centimeters, at the most 5 centimeters in Stony Rapids and Uranium City. Wind's going to be fairly light tomorrow, maybe some gusts up to 30 in the southern part of the province. Then as we head into Saturday, gusts going to pick up along the southwestern part of the province. But look at that, a calm day in Yorkton on Saturday. And it will be calm in Regina as well. It will be calm actually over the next couple of days here, relatively so. Mostly sunny skies these next 2 days, right where we should be this time of year. We'll warm up to around minus 4 on Monday. Then we have some cloud cover and some cooler conditions building back in. Saskatoon, we are looking for a pleasant day tomorrow. We'll drop back a little bit on Saturday, but not too drastically. Some snow for Sunday and Monday, and temperatures remaining right around where they should be for this time of year, Natasha. So pretty nice week ahead.
Sounds great. Thanks, Ethan.
You're welcome.
Maybe Donner, Blitzen, and the rest of Santa's reindeer had the day off because yesterday, jolly old St. Nick hitched a ride in a police helicopter. His destination, a Los Angeles Children's Hospital. The LAPD event has been going strong for more than 30 years now, bringing holiday cheer to more than 25,000 families. We'll be back after the break.
Make the season joyous. Make the season hopeful. Make the season kind. CBC is helping us, Food Bank Saskatchewan, reach our goal of $1 million this holiday season. Visit cbc.ca/BeKindSK to see how you can help make the season kind.
Welcome back. After nearly 10 months in Russian custody, American basketball star Brittany Greiner has been released. It came in a prisoner swap between Moscow and Washington. Magda Gabraselasis has the story.
Brittany Greiner is safe and in good spirits and on her way home. That is what President Joe Biden shared today after he spoke to her on the phone. The White House released a picture capturing that moment. That's Greiner's wife in red. U.S. officials have always maintained that Greiner was being wrongfully detained in Russia on drug charges and committed to trying to get her out. It took agreeing to a prisoner swap for Russian arms dealer Viktor Bout.
This is a day we've worked toward for a long time. We never stopped pushing for her release. It took painstaking and intense negotiations, and I want to thank all the hard-working public servants across my administration who worked tirelessly to secure her release.
Greiner's wife, Sherelle, said today her family is whole again.
Thank you, everybody, for your support. And today is just a happy day for me and my family, so I'm going to smile right now.
While Greiner is now free, U.S.-Canadian citizen Paul Whelan is still behind bars in Russia. He was arrested almost 4 years ago, accused of spying. Today is the second time in less than a year that the U.S. has agreed to a prisoner swap that didn't include him. Last April, it was to bring Trevor Reed home. Now it's Greiner. On the phone with CNN in an exclusive interview today, Whalen said he was disappointed that more hasn't been done to secure his release.
I was arrested for a crime that never occurred. I'm happy that Brittany is going home today and that Trevor went home when he did. But I don't understand why I'm still sitting here. My bags are packed. I'm ready to go home. I just need an airplane to come and get me.
Secretary of State Antony Blinken was asked about that. He said this wasn't a choice between which American to bring home.
The choice was one or none. I wholeheartedly wish that we could have brought Paul home today on the same plane as Brittany, just as at the time I wish we could have brought Brittany and Paul home when we secured the release of Trevor Reed back in April. But we will stay at it.
He and the president say they're not giving up on bringing Paul Whalen home like they did for Greiner today. Magda Gebrselassie, CBC News, Washington.
Iran has executed a man arrested in one of the earliest protests stemming from the country's latest turmoil. He was accused of injuring a security officer with a knife and blocking a street. The incident was just days after Mahsa Amini's death. Mohsen Shakari's execution is the first coming from the subsequent uprising. Rights groups suspect he was tortured before confessing. Amnesty International says 20 others could face death sentences in what it's calling sham trials. Now, Ethan Williams is back with another look at our forecast.
And it's going to be a pretty nice night when you compare it with the last couple, Natasha. We're looking for minus 12 at midnight in Regina. Not too bad of a wind chill. Wind's going to be out of the southeast, just under 30 kilometers an hour. We will get some clearing as we head to the early morning hours tomorrow. Minus 13. Winds picking up a little bit out of the southeast. And then as we head to the afternoon, a little bit of cloud cover building back in. Winds picking up slightly, but we will be into the minus single digits. Saskatoon, clear conditions at minus 10 tonight. Those southeast winds around 24 kilometers an hour or so. Again, cloud cover building back in a little bit tomorrow morning as we head toward 8 a.m. Temperature stays the same. And then as we get into the afternoon, we are looking for a bit of a warm up around minus 7. Conditions going to be nice for a walk outside with a few less layers on this time, Natasha.
That sounds really nice. Thank you, Ethan.
You bet.
The cold snap over the past few days had most of us hiding inside, myself included. But a Saskatoon photographer sees the winter weather as an opportunity. Check out what he's captured.
To me, it really evokes an emotion of almost like peace. You feel alone, but it's a safe feeling of being alone. Specifically for winter photography, I enjoy it quite a bit because it gets me out and about during the winter time, but also the winter season gives a different experience. Having falling snow adds this like natural magical effect. It's the steam coming from the river or using ice and snow to add a little bit more texture to photography. I definitely didn't grow up here, and I definitely didn't grow up loving the winter time, but with my photography, I also find it up because it just gives me a sense of peace. I enjoy winter a lot more.
That's it for us tonight. For news anytime, head to cbc.ca/sask, or you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. Glenn Reed will be back with more local news at 11. Thanks for watching and have a great night.